Speaking of what we're up against, Facebook, very, very problematic. Color of Change has built campaigns to fight systemic racism. And after a year of pressure on Facebook, they finally agreed to your call for a civil rights and safety audit. And what does that really mean for us?
So what that means to us, we actually got into pushing on Facebook back in 2015 when they were surveilling Black Lives Matter activists and allowing folks to be doxxed, which means that your private information is shared, which was a violation. And they didn't enforce the rules when it came to black folks. Then there was this incident where there was this sister named Corrine Gaines in Baltimore. She was having a police interaction that was going bad, and she had her Facebook Live on. The police called up Facebook, had them turn off her Facebook Live. Yep. Shortly after turning it off, Corrine ends up dead, and the police have a story that does not seem real, but now we don't have the video to actually push back. So we've been going back and forth with Facebook. We demanded and got them to do an audit. We called for that demand. We actually had worked with Senator Booker, who pressed Mark Zuckerberg when he came before the Senate. So that's why it's important that we have our folks at all different levels of these offices, because Senator Booker did us a solid by really pressing that day. And they committed to the audit. But at the same time committing to the audit, Facebook hired a PR firm to attack my organization behind the scenes and me. And they were pitching stories out, and we only found out because the New York Times revealed it. And the New York Times actually revealed it and called us after the story posted, like, hey, do you have a comment on this? And I'm trying to figure out, like, what is going on? How are we in the crosshairs of this billion-dollar organization? Why are they attacking us? And it's because we were going after and exposing things that they did not want present. Rather than sitting at the table and working with us, rather than just proving that we may have been wrong, but we weren't wrong, they tried to sort of attack us in the most problematic ways. Well, the audit happened, and we got Facebook to commit to a whole bunch of things through this auditing process. From, banning white nationalists to putting rules around voter suppression, only to then see them not enforce it when it comes to Donald Trump. And so along with the NAACP and other organizations back in July, we launched the Stop Hate for Profit campaign, which really worked to push corporations to divest from sponsoring on Facebook. And over 1,000 corporations joined us. And Facebook made some more changes, and sometimes they didn't actually enforce those changes. What we're dealing with Facebook, and I want everyone to recognize, sometimes people will say, well, why don't you just get off Facebook? And sure, get off Facebook if you want, but Facebook has nearly 3 billion users. That is more followers than Christianity. It has over 75% of the messenger market. So it has become a monopoly. They already have our data. So yes, you individually could get off of Facebook, but that doesn't change Facebook's impact on our democracy and our economy. So we actually need rules of the road so that they don't put their hands on the scale of our democracy, that they don't block people out of the economy, and that they don't create all of these avenues for white nationalists to be able to organize and be radicalized. The Rittenhouse guy from Kenosha who shot folks out in the street, he was part of a group that was flagged over 400 times on Facebook, and Facebook did nothing to pull it down because what they've got is these right-wingers inside of the organization that have convinced Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg that if they enforce civil rights laws, that Donald Trump will regulate them. And because they are trying to avoid regulation because they only care about profit and growth, they will put us, our community, in harm's way for more money. And so we need our elected officials to do more to put new rules of the road in place. We need to do as much as possible to prevent the same things that happened in 2016 with Russians and others using Facebook to suppress our votes. And that is why, as a 21st century civil rights organization, we don't take money from corporations like we don't take financial support from any corporation, but we work to hold corporations like Facebook accountable because as much as we have to work to push government to do the things that we need them to do, corporations have an outsized power on our lives. And if someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who has 60% of the shares, is chairperson and CEO, can allow Donald Trump Jr. to have an ad on Facebook enlisting an army of Trump voters to show up to the polls because they're claiming that black folks and other folks in urban areas are trying to steal the election, when that has never been the history of black people's participation in our vote. Like, if we don't hold them accountable, then they will continue to put us in harm's way. And so that's what we're doing. And I hope folks will come to colorofchange.org and join us in that effort, because this type of work, this type of fight is so critical to making sure that technology, the tools that we all use to communicate, to share pictures, to keep in contact with loved ones, the stuff that has the potential to bring us into the future doesn't drag us into the past.